Hi, Asipe. Good to have some alumni representing. Okay. So while people are joining and we are starting, I just perhaps want to say welcome, welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 2025 Teachers Can Exchange. This is our annual exchange where we bring together teachers, allies, and really to exchange, to share knowledge, to share ideas on some of the ways in which teachers are shining a light where they're at, but how we can come together as an ecosystem to really support the endeavors and efforts of teachers. For me, before we start again, to use the chat, we have something called a check-in at Teachers Can. You know, it's a culture of just grounding ourselves and being present in the space. So what I'd really also like us to do now and to use the chat in somewhat more meaningful ways than just where we are from. Okay, you're in Cape Town. Nice, I wish. But what then? Perhaps you can then just also be putting in the chat what is really exciting you about today's theme, that is teaching as an act of nation building. So you can be chatting away and we'll just engage on the basis of that because I think that then allows even for somewhat of a networking, isn't it? When you're already seeing a comment that someone has said and strikes a chord with you. And we hope that even this platform and this space will allow for us to connect beyond this, you know, find each other on LinkedIn. You know, I love LinkedIn because it's not that hard to find someone. Their name, their surname, as is, find them on LinkedIn, connect, and just how do we keep the connection going, the exchange and the conversation going. So, in the chat, what is exciting you about this theme topic of teaching as an act of nation building? It's also a really nice way to just get our thoughts going like, where are people at? What what do people hear when they hear these words? Because I've realized that they land with us differently, all of us. Okay, so we've hit the 30 mark. We had 33, a bonus. We're starting, right? And some of what is coming up already is, yeah, the relevance of today's challenges in shaping a different future, right? A call to reimagination. Teachers are not islands, is what's coming up. They are thought, the very thought of nation building means coming together for greater good. When teachers are taken seriously, nation building becomes a priority. I think that's something for all of us to ponder. Yeah. Okay. So those are just some of the thoughts. I will leave it in the chat and I'll encourage us to just put comments, thoughts as we go along in the chat. Stephen and I will be using what is said in the chat to sort of also like spur on the conversation so that again, it is an exchange with us as the audience. This is our first online exchange. So we're also really excited. We're also trialing it out and seeing how it looks. We have often gathered in person, bringing along these teachers and these allies. But what we are also appreciating about this is just the demographic reach that we are getting to have, you know, teachers from different contexts and to hear the diverse experiences of teaching as as an act of nation building. So to start us off, I'm going to formally welcome us all onto the call, to thank our speakers that have joined us this evening. Is it evening? Is it afternoon? Teachers can correct me. I am not a teacher by profession. But to our speakers that have joined us, our keynote speaker, our panelists, we are so excited. Teachers, principals, school leaders, development professionals, allies from really all across the sector that are interested and are invested in this agenda of nation building. Thank you for joining us. So why this theme, you might ask? Let me grab my cue notes. So I think for me, this theme really invites us to reflect on the deep and pivotal role that teachers have played, both historically and presently, in shaping South Africa, not only within classrooms, but within the broader agenda of our development and our democracy, right? I think we can all agree. And perhaps I will just speak to throughout history, teachers have been at the forefront of social transformation. In a pivotal year in our history, 1913, you may know that and associate that with the Native Land Act, but also in that very year, teachers had founded something called the Teachers League of South Africa, which was really a movement set out to use education as a lever for liberation. And throughout the years, we've seen this. We've seen teachers nurture activists and really sort of lead and be at the forefront of the struggle in the ways in which they are nurturing young minds, shaping their values, opening them up to consciousness, and bringing them really into a state of saying, we can do something about this, and taking on agency. And it's really been teachers that have been at the forefront of that. And so, yes, our classrooms have been those spaces that have been long used to shape and to form our values and to plant seeds for freedom and liberation. And ultimately, I think in a country as unequal as ours, but also that has such a deep history, ultimately, they have been really at the forefront of saying, how do we move forward? How do we reimagine a different society? How do we reimagine a South Africa where all are free and where all can participate equally in the ways in which they are gifted, right? And I so appreciate that about the teachers that we've worked with at Teachers Can, that have said, how do we support all learners to reach their full potential in all aspects of their lives? And as our project lead, who is not here today, I was wondering if she might be able to join us. And Siziwe Molwana, who is currently on maternity leave, as she has written in an op-ed. So she wrote an op-ed that I encourage you to please go see and find. It is on our website, where we are looking at teaching as an act of nation building. She puts it like this, and I'm going to quote her, that teaching has never been a neutral act. And as she writes, she says that teachers were once seen as carriers of social mobility and community aspiration. And that's something that we're hoping to restore, right? That teachers are still a pivotal part of social mobility, of community aspiration, and that teaching today still for us needs to be reimagined as the noble profession that it has always been in our country. I think for me, as I sort of close this part off, I am deeply passionate about inequality. And I have found in my own life and in the lives of those around me that education has been an equalizer and has been a pathway out of poverty and out of the inequality trap, quote unquote, although we are still in it in some ways, right? And had it not been for my teachers, had it not been for the people that invested in me, not just as a learner, but as a person and as a global citizen and how I view myself, I don't think I would be here. And I think we can all attest to that, that somewhere along the line, a teacher shaped who we are, how we thought of ourselves, and in good ways, in positive ways, not always, but we have had teachers that have shaped us in positive ways. And that's why we're also having this conversation today, to say, how can we support teachers so that they too support the learners that they are bringing up? And ultimately, that teachers are contributing to the agenda of nation building because they are at the heart of it. So I don't want to take time, because we want to hear from our keynote speaker. We want to hear from our panelists. But that is why we're having this conversation today. We have different role players in society that are in different ways in this agenda of nation building. And we'd love to hear from them how it is that they are supporting teachers and how it is that they've experienced education to be a lever of nation building. By way of introduction, I am Zama Bata Bodu, and I am the Facilitation and Mobilization Lead here at Teachers Can. I'm joined by my colleagues and obviously all of you. We're really excited that you're joining us today. For now, though, something that I'm going to do is I'm going to do what any organization can do when they have 30 or more people joining them. I'm going to give us a little bit of a presentation on Teachers Can. Literally 3 minutes, guys, 3 minutes. This 3 minutes is standing between you and the guests. I know, but give it to me so that I introduce us as Teachers Can a little bit more formally, and you can see how else it is that you can engage with us in the near future, because we are hoping that you will stay connected to this network and, of course, to the guests that we have brought on and the networks that they bring, right? I think it's also some of the work that we do is really around how do we break from teachers being isolated within the profession and in the practice. So we hope that such spaces are really an exchange even of connections, of networks. So allow me, please, a little bit of your time just to share not just why we're having this conversation, but who are we? Yes, we're having this conversation, but who are we? So can I share my screen, guys? Am I there?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. Let me slide from the beginning. Okay. I have promised both you and I 3 minutes. And this is just a short presentation. I ask that any questions that you have, please put them in the chat. Something that comes up, please put them in the chat. This is not really something that we will have time to engage on now, but perhaps later when we're having discussions and we're engaging in the chat, if something has come up for you now, we will definitely try to engage. So Teachers Can, who are we? Why do we exist? The big hope at Teachers Can for us is that we catalyze change in education from the ground up. And what is Teachers Can? So Teachers Can stands for the Teachers Change Agent Network, and we are a teacher-led network that exists, like I've said, to catalyze education from the ground up. Our vision here at Teachers Can is to see a South Africa with change agent teachers create better learning experiences for all children to thrive and to reach their full potential. Our mission is a South Africa with empowered change agent teachers create those better learning experiences. And at the heart of our mission is the Teachers Can Manifesto, which unifies teachers around 5 core values, which we believe that, if teachers are united around these core values, they can drive for a common purpose, a collective vision, and ultimately drive together at this agenda of nation building. Well, a national agenda, so to speak, but even around nation building ultimately and helping learners and children to reach their full potential. So our goal is to build an influential network of 2,000 change agent teachers by 2030. Partner with us on this one, who are deeply connected, actively living out the Teachers Can Manifesto to drive meaningful change in both their schools and in their communities. Ultimately, that's what we hope will influence education, right? How do we do this, you might ask? So we build and connect teacher leaders through initiatives like the Multiplier program, like the webinars that we have, and online connection points that are available for both our alumni and our allies. So they're not always limited to our alumni and those that have been a part of our programs, but they're also open to allies. We also create spaces for reflection and collaboration, such as this exchange. Really, it's an invitation for us to collectively reflect and to collaborate and exchange some ideas. And then lastly, how we do this is by amplifying teacher voices and innovations across South Africa. So how do we do this? We do this through sharing some resources, blogs where teachers have also contributed and written, toolkits that teachers have written, and op-ed pieces, both from the team, and we're hoping in future that we continue to partner with teachers. Now, you may have heard me refer to the manifesto and you're thinking, what is the manifesto? So our manifesto is a manifesto of 5 core principles that we believe that teachers can, if teachers are able to realize this, then they can tap into their individual agency, collective agency, and drive collective change nationally, but also even starting at the micro level in their classrooms and in their schools. Some of the points within our manifesto are teachers who can engage as equals and for equality in schools, teachers who can innovate and own school-wide teaching practices. Some points that you may not see as I've shared my screen in this way are teachers who are able to support, and not able, but teachers who can. Do you hear that play on word? Teachers can. Teachers can support learners to reach their full potential in all aspects of their lives. Teachers can connect to a wider world of social change. And lastly, that teachers can play an active role in school structures. So those are some of the manifesto points that we hope can unify teachers together to drive this change from the ground up. And you might then ask, lastly, why is it that we exist, right? We exist because we believe that teachers are key in shaping the values, the skills, and the imagination that we define in our define our development and our democracy. So when we support teachers to thrive, what we are ultimately doing is we're supporting communities to thrive. And how we put it as teachers can is teachers who are well, teach well. That's at the heart of what we believe in. Teachers who are well teach well, and the support is really around that. So even this gathering, right, is a part of a larger movement that is about restoring the dignity and the agency of teachers as leaders of social transformation. So you are part of something big. You are part of a movement. Where you can catch us and engage us is my 3 minutes over. It's over. Sorry, guys. We have more esteemed guests to engage with. My 3 minutes is over, but we are on social media platforms. I encourage you to find us on our website, and that's then where you'll get directions into all these other platforms that you can connect us with on. We have a report, a very pivotal report that we had in 2022, sharing the experiences of teachers, especially even as it pertains to living out this manifesto, to living out their agency. Please do check that report out. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Speedy Gonzalez, but I hope you've gotten the gist of who we are. And now then, stop sharing. Yes, thank you, thank you. So now then, I am going to hand over to our keynote speaker and allow for time for our keynote speaker to share and to join with us. Before I do that though, I'm going to introduce her a little bit, just share, although of course she can get into a little bit more on who she is and what she's about. But our keynote speaker today is Siziwe Molwana, and she is an education specialist, an ordained pastor, a community leader. She has over 25 years. Some of the teachers in this room haven't lived for 25 years, but she has over 25 years of service in the Gauteng Education Department. She currently serves, as I've mentioned, as a senior education specialist for values in education, where she leads initiatives that promote values-based learning, social cohesion, and nation building across schools. I mean, it couldn't have been more aligned. It couldn't have been just more connected to what it is that we're discussing today and what we hope to get from our keynote speaker. We are really excited to have you, Siziwe. Please help me in joining, in celebrating Siziwe as she joined us and as she takes on this platform to share a little bit more on teaching as an act of nation building from her experience. Siziwe, thank you for joining us. Over to you, ma'am. Applause.
Thank you, Zama.
Thank you, Siziwe. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me take this opportunity and appreciate you guys at Teachers Can for this opportunity that has been granted to me to be able to share with all my colleagues nationally in terms of the theme for the session today. Without any waste of time, Zama, I think you have nicely introduced me, and I don't want to, add anything to it because I just want to save time for my presentation to you guys, as I wouldn't want to leave anything out.
Yes. Siziwe, I'm not sure. Sorry, just before you start, I'm not sure if you're able to turn your camera on. It seems like your camera is on, but we still can't see you. There we go. And please, if you'll also pardon me, teachers who are joining us, if you're able, teachers, allies, wherever you're joining us from, if you're able to turn your cameras on, please and thank you. Sorry, I forgot this part as part of our housekeeping rules. It will be nice so that our guest doesn't feel like she's talking to names,
All right.
that she's talking to humans. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
So much. Thank you, Zama, once again. I'm going to quickly zoom into the 3 questions that you guys gave me in terms of trying and answer in my address today. First and foremost, the first question that you gave me, how do you define the role of teachers in nation building, and why is this perspective critical for our society today? Ladies and gentlemen, the very first teaching standard 1 in our SACE, South African Council for Educators, says, I quote, "Teaching is based on an ethical commitment to the learning and well-being of all learners." This teaching standard emphasizes that while teaching is an ethical act, the commitment is to ensure that children learn. Now, if I want to continue to put this into a biblical perspective, Hosea 4 verse 6 says, and I quote, "My people perish due to lack of knowledge." Now, schools are established as centers that are the basis for knowledge and information, just to make sure that no one perishes because of lack of knowledge. And the scripture further goes to say in Ephesians 4:11 to 13, it states all the fivefold ministers, but the last one is, and the teachers. So for me, teaching as a profession then becomes an act of nation building, because you can only build someone by means of giving that person information, knowledge that is going to assist that person to move on in life. That's why you often hear people saying knowledge is power. Now, we have our education policies that are regulating what we do as educators, and our PEM document in the section that deals with roles and responsibilities of educators then stipulates various roles and responsibilities for an educator. And I just want to pick up a few clauses from our PEM document. I like the one that says, as a teacher, you have a role and responsibility to interact with stakeholders. section 3.4.2, which then explains to say, as a teacher, you are to contribute to the professional development of colleagues by sharing knowledge, ideas, and resources. 3.4.3, you are to remain informed of current developments in educational thinking and curriculum development. And the last one that I love under this section, which is number 3, interaction with stakeholders. 3.4.4, to participate in school's governing body if elected to do so. I'm mentioning this, ladies and gentlemen, because in an act of building a nation, you cannot do it alone. You need other role players that you are going to work with. By its nature, our work as educators is collaborative and it's teamwork. It's something that you do as you assist others and you also do with assistance from others. As I move on, there is another section that speaks of communication. This one says, that is section 3.5.2. It says, as an educator, you are to collaborate with educators of other schools in organizing and conducting extra and co-curricular activities. So this then confirms the collaborative work and the collaborative nature of our work as educators. Partnering up with others is then key. And 3.5.5, as an educator, you are to maintain contact with sporting, social, cultural, and community organizations. This is where I wanna pause a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, and emphasize the issue of saying, if we are to say education is an act of nation building, then it means, indeed, we are to partner up with all, members of the community, all the role players that are of interest in the department and the work that the department does. And this becomes very critical in our society today because it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm sure we all are aware of this phrase. And it is a phrase that also drives the strategy that we have. As I will be talking, I will mention this later in my presentation. But I also want to say to all of us as colleagues, yes, it takes a village to raise a child. But today, in this day and age, in our times, it takes an informed village and social media to raise a child, because we cannot run away from that fact that the learners that we are responsible for as educators, it's Gen Z generation, and they are exposed to a lot of information, and even the information that we are to teach them, sometimes they get it beforehand, even before we explore the information that we want to share with them. So because of the fact that they are social beings, they exist in communities, and education has become a societal issue. So it is critical that we understand that these roles that we have as educators, they then become very key for us to be able to build the nation. And moving on to the second question, what can inspire teachers to see themselves as agents of change? Ladies and gentlemen, in my view, you yourself as a person, you need to be self-inspired. You need to be self-inspired first and foremost. You need to be self-driven. You need to be self-motivated as an educator, because of the fact that you are a nation builder. you are an agent for social transformation. You need to be a go-getter. You need to be a trendsetter, someone who leaves an indelible mark, you know, in whatever space that you are given to make that positive impact, not only to your learners, to your colleagues as well. Because if you recall the few clauses that I picked up from our permit document that are roles and responsibilities for educators, you also have a responsibility over your colleagues in terms of you sharing your expertise with them. That is why as educators, you collaborate and form, PLCs, professional learning communities, where you are able to put your heads together, share good practices and strategies that are effective for you to teach your learners. The fact that you have this job as an educator, that should inspire you. You know, in our country that has got high rates of unemployment, because you have a job, that on its own should be an inspiration. The professionals you see, colleagues, that all emanate or come from the hands of educators, that should be an inspiration itself. That, teaching as a profession is a mother to all professions. If you see a doctor, you must know there's a teacher behind that doctor. If you see a lawyer, there's a teacher behind that lawyer. And the list goes, you know it. And I think what fulfills me the most personally, as an educator that has been in the system for over 26 years, is, coming across some of my coming. Okay. What inspires me the most as an educator who has been in the system for, the number of years that I've been, is to, in my journeys and walking in the mall, you come across your former students and they are professionals. Some are doctors, some are now lawyers, some are managing, are managers in places. Like, for instance, one that I come across the other time is a manager at KFC. And the list goes on and on, ladies and gentlemen. That on its own, for me, it is an inspiration, because it tells me that, I made a positive impact on somebody's life to a point of them realizing who they are, their purpose, and that translated into the professionals that they are today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you on this point, because of the work that you are doing, you just have to be good to yourself. Reward yourself for a job well done. Don't wait for praises, eh? Praise yourself. Give yourself a pat at the back. You know why? You deserve rewards on daily basis. You deserve rewards on daily basis. But if you wait for our National Teacher Awards, for instance, that comes once a year. If you wait for our district awards, that also comes once a year. And you are doing a very good job on daily basis. So that's why it is incumbent upon each and every one of you to give yourself that pat at the back, to reward yourself for a job well done. And when those awards now come annually, it's a cherry on top, and it seals what you have already done for yourself. Because remember, we do host these awards once a year due to budget constraints and all other factors. If there's another thing that needs to inspire you as an educator, are your results, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. What you see in your learners, their growth, their performance, their positive change in terms of conduct over the years, that should inspire you. the smiles that you put on their faces on daily basis, the confidence you build in them in your various subjects and various extra and co-curricular activities. Some, you meet up with them shy, but by the end of their matric year, they are out there, outspoken, confident, and they are big debaters. They go out there and win. That on its own must inspire you. The critical thinkers that you raise, ladies and gentlemen, who even sometimes challenge your own perspectives, and they will show you the other side of the coin when you didn't even think of it. Those are the things that should inspire you. And indeed, they just need to give you that confirmation that you are in the business of making people's lives. You are building the nation, piece by piece. With regards to structural and systemic support that is most needed from government, communities, organizations to enable teachers to fulfill the nation-building role effectively. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity and appreciate our government for all the efforts that are in place. And I know for some teachers, these efforts, you guys may not even aware of that they are in existence. And I'm happy to have been given this opportunity because I'm gonna bring to your attention what is in place, which is meant to give support from the system itself. First and foremost, the system has got, there is a body that is called NECT, National Education Collaboration Trust. This body is responsible for ensuring that there is collaboration by all role players to drive the education agenda forward. This body puts together seminars, dialogues, conferences, wherein different role players, they get to put heads together in paving a way forward systemically to support the educators as well as learners. And our last engagement for the year 2025 was on the 9th of September in Pretoria, Centurion, where together we were having a dialogue wherein we were trying to reframe schools' responsibility to promote health and well-being of educators and learners in the South African education system. So that is in place. And this trust allows partners, up to including you colleagues as educators, if you have any project that you have implemented at your school and it's yielding good results and is effective, you get an opportunity to actually come and present the work that you've done and then withdraw, the good practices in terms of putting together what is needed to actually support you in the system. We also have Commission 4 of DBE, which is about CSTL, Care and Support for Teaching and Learning. Now, Care and Support for Teaching and Learning is a strategy that is aimed to ensure that you guys are supported, the learners are also supported. I just want to quickly share with you the activities that underpin, the strategy CSTL is to actually create a socially inclusive and cohesive school environment that is welcoming all children. The environment must be welcoming of all children and provides them with quality teaching regardless of their differences in race, nationality, sex, gender, family income, nationality, physical or health status, sexual orientation, intellectual capacity, or even language. And secondly, there has to be respect, or the care and support for teaching and learning activities also ensures that respect, protect, promote, and help monitor the rights of children, not just to education, but to equality, freedom from discrimination, and all other rights necessary to their full access to and enjoyment of them, constitutionally guaranteed right to education, and enjoyment of their, rather, constitutionally guaranteed right to education. And lastly, the CSTL are to address social exclusion and the barriers that prevent children from learning and participating at school. For instance, the barriers that affect many of our South African children and make them vulnerable are poverty, prejudicial attitudes, and practices by school community members living in a home affected by HIV and AIDS, for instance, disability or illness, violence and abuse at home or at school, poor access to services and poor infrastructure at school, such as inadequate water supply and sanitation services, as well as insufficient classrooms. So now this strategy safeguards our learners from that. And the key mandates for this CSTL strategy that is aimed to support not only learners, you included, ladies and gentlemen, as educators. One, it's a rights-based, socially inclusive and cohesive school. Nutritional support, health promotion, social welfare services, safety and protection, curriculum support, material support, which is your LTSM, co-curricular support, psychosocial support, infrastructure, water and sanitation. So you can see that this is what the system has put in place in ensuring that you as educators, you are supported. And of course, you are the driving agents behind all of this support strategy, because we view your work as a critical role indeed as you build the nation. And this speaks directly to our client, the learner who is at the center of everything that we do. And we usually call this child Sinte Baleng. And this child needs to be taught. This child needs to be raised as a responsible citizen. This child needs to be conscientized that he or she is not only a responsible citizen of South Africa, but this child must look at himself or herself as a responsible citizen of the globe, as was indicated by Zama, you know, in her opening remarks, as she was looking at the key mandates for Teachers Care. So all role players are now requested and required to rally around this child. And the key role player is you as an educator, because all these other role players, they will get a direction from you. You will open platforms and opportunities for them to come in and collaborate with you. And you will authorize and screen them and make sure that they come on board. Having said that, I also want to bring to your attention that the second effort from the system to assist and support you as you build the nation is the project that is in place right now. And a lot of you will attest to it because it is a national project, the BEEI project. wherein you have, support staff in the form of interns that are at your schools as we speak, and they are playing various roles to assist you with the work that you do, to make this nation building role effective for you. You are given hands to use. So under your guidance, these BEEI support teams will lighten your load, will make things happen for you. Obviously, if you do plan for them properly and coordinate them properly and hold them accountable and make sure that when they get to your schools, they perform their roles and responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have as number 3, QLTC. I'm not sure if all of you are aware of this campaign. It's Quality Learning and Teaching Campaign. This campaign consists of all role players, all stakeholders within each community, up to including the counselors, of the community in which your school exists. The SAPS officers, social workers, everybody who is in governing body associations, they are part of the QLTC, even before they are standalone as associations that take interest in supporting the work that you do. So these QLTC members, they come together and they pave the way in terms of how to best support the work that you do at your schools, dealing with community matters that affect the schooling system, affecting your learners, affecting your effective teaching and learning and all that. And for you to get maximum support from them, you need to know that they are in existence. You need to know their meetings. You need to be able to join those meetings and see how best can you benefit from their existence. The school governing body associations and related forums, like I indicated, these are parents that have vested interest in terms of helping schools to run smoothly. NGOs, faith-based organizations, and community-based organizations are also involved. I'm sure you do have those that you've partnered up with. In our district, for instance, I've got a variety that I've linked, schools with, and to ensure that teachers are supported in every possible way. So as educators, as you continue to build, the nation, as you continue as an agent for change, please do advocate and create platforms and opportunity for these stakeholders so that they play their role under your supervision, under your guidance, following proper channels as well as protocols. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say this. When I hosted a Heritage Commemoration Educators Symposium at our district, I invited Professor Day Lansford from Wits University School of Education, and really in her presentation and address introduced us all to such an interesting approach to teaching that she indicated that she recently come across. And she said it emerged from the emergency of remote teaching and learning during COVID-19 pandemic. And it's called pedagogy of kindness. And according to her, this pedagogy of kindness says that we should extend compassion to learners while not compromising the power and hard work of learning important ideas. Briefly, this pedagogy of kindness is rooted in 2 important things. 1, believing learners, and 2, believing in learners. So, you know, in her adaptation of Catherine Denial's original text, she said, when Elena comes to her to say that their grandparent died, she believes them. When they miss a test and say that they had the flu, she believes them. When they tell the story that they didn't have electricity and couldn't complete their homework, she believed that. And she went on to say, what she loved is the fact that there's an obvious chance that she could be taken advantage of in these scenarios, that someone could straight up lie and get away with it. But you know what? She learned that she would rather take risk that make life more easy for the learners who are struggling with grief and illness or other contextual difficulties, because it really costs her nothing to be kind. And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, we feel exactly the same. It really costs nothing to be kind. And we also need to make sure that in the process of doing this, we are able to make learners accountable, because it is one of our 10 fundamental values from the Constitution. Whilst they are telling all these stories, you also need to make sure that they are accountable, in that if they say they were sick, they must be able to produce and prove that they were sick by bringing those doctor's notes. And if someone died in the family, they are able to produce those death certificates if they missed an important exam, so that another opportunity is granted to them, and all those things. But what we need to guard against is the issue of treating them with suspicion in their time of need, because it does not build them. It creates a culture of fear and resentment. And when learners feel believed and valued, they see worth in themselves. So with those words, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say, all of us as nation builders, as agents of change and catalysts for social transformation agenda, I am of the view that we would want to consider, explore, and probably exploit this amazing pedagogy of kindness. However, in the process, let us just be cautious that our beautiful, very creative learners don't take advantage of us. And I believe this could supplement our teaching pedagogy. And I now know that after I've said this, some of you feeling guilty already of all the times that you treated them with suspicion, all the time you didn't believe them when they were telling you all of those small stories. It's fine. From today going forward, we just have to make it our prayer every day to receive more grace to forgive ourselves, because we're human after all, and everyone around us, and also forgive them when they have not told us the truth, for the benefit of us all, as we continue to create a peaceful, conducive, and enabling environment in our schools for teaching and learning. And probably not only for teaching, for reteaching as well, learning, unlearning, and even relearning, because there's a lot of things that we need to, unlearn, and as we learn new things. Dear educators, indeed you are the nation builders, You've got this. Go for it. This is your time to shine. Tough times don't last, colleagues. Tough teams do. And you are the toughest of teams that I've ever come across in the education space. And with those words, let's continue to build. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Pastor Molwana. You know, feel free, guys. You can unmute, release a bit of the energy.
Hallelujah.
Clap
No.
hands. Share us and
Ah,
celebrate
yes.
it.
Bless, 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 bless.
Amanda.
Amanda.
That was beautiful, beautiful.
Amazing, amazing.
Yes. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful are the words that we're
No.
getting. Thank you so much, Pastor Molwana, for your address and sharing with us. I think the resounding affirmation from the room as well just speaks to how much we have gained. I think for me, I just want to highlight, I learned a thing or two from my colleague Stephen, who I will be handing over shortly. But that afterwards, you just kind of summarize, you know? And that's something that I've learned from our master facilitator, Teachers Can. And for me, what Pastor Molwana speaks to, I think for all of us here, firstly, when she started, she spoke of the teaching standards. And this was a reminder when we're at the Limpopo immersion that we need to go back to our policies, guys, and to the standards that exist. And these things are there for us, and they are there as a standard to be reached. That's what standards are for. And they should be the bare minimum, knowing and having information, basic knowledge that we use to build these learners, that we use to develop and to build our colleagues. Pastor Molwana, you have done something great in us and in the work that we do, because a lot of our work is grounded also in collaboration and how do teachers connect and come together. And thank you for highlighting that teachers in some ways have the responsibility to build their colleagues, right? And for me, that is just liberating to know, and actually such a great call to action, that and a reminder for us to constantly and continuously reflect on, are we, as we're growing, as we're being developed as well, are we contributing to the professional development of our colleagues? Because those very colleagues also have to steward their knowledge to build these learners that we are all collectively trying to build. It's not about the learners must greet me at the mall. The learners must greet all of us, because we are specializing in different things, and we have to develop these learners in all our special areas, and they then have to find their passion depending on what it is that they are inclined to and are drawn to. I think the importance reminder to engage and to interact with our stakeholders, whether it is QLTC, whether it is what are some of these structures that were mentioned, whether it is even the NECT, right? Those structures exist for us to collaborate, to interact with them. In the Teachers Can Manifesto, we would say this: if you are part of the network, you already know, connect with a wider world of social change. It doesn't take just me, myself, and I, but it takes indeed a village, as we know. So you cannot go at it alone. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we constantly have to be partnering with communities, with parents, with allies that are interested in this agenda of how do we build this nation. I think so many highlights that I've taken as I was jotting down a few things, but I'm wary of time and want us to get to our panel discussion. But I think, ma'am, you highlighted something that was so important, that it takes an informed village. And for me, that was a call to be responsible and to say, am I continuing to be informed? Am I updating my knowledge so that indeed then I pass on legit, credible knowledge? This invitation to really that, guys, we are building young people that are going to be adults, that need to be critical thinkers in our society, that need to solve for problems, that need to be the leaders. Are we doing that? And how do we then develop ourselves so that we bear fruits that are going to feed this nation? Some of the parts, it sounded as like ma'am has been in one of our rooms. Be inspired, be self-inspired, be self-driven, leave a mark. those are things that I think that at Teachers Can we also really speak to quite a lot. That affirm yourself. Don't wait for the affirmation of your leaders. Affirm yourself, affirm your colleagues, and start that culture of affirmation already. Affirm your learners. I think what Pastor Molwana also touched on is the fact that we can be part of already creating a culture. As you were speaking, I was reminded of a teacher that we met last week who was sharing, we have something at Teachers Can that we started with here that is a check-in, right? And she was saying that she's already started introducing that in her classroom. And a learner that was quite aloof and quite distant and never says anything doesn't really speak. And I mean, this teacher was at the immersion in July and has sort of started implementing this in the third and this term. But what she has now seen is this learner grabbing her to class and saying, ma'am, it's your class time, it's your lesson. We need to start class. And this learner's being more engaged, is opening up and is looking forward to the time of checking in. So she may not have anything else to say when it's the lesson, but when it's time to check in, she actually wants to check in. She wants to open up. She wants to share how it is that she's doing and how her day is going. So it was also, how do we build a culture for our learners to be confident beings and confident and learners and citizens. So much that was said. Lastly, I don't know if this is lastly, guys. I actually said a lot. We were here, but I don't want to spoil it. We said, she also spoke though of PLCs, and I was like, get in there. We are building the multiplier program. We are building learning circles. Those guys are PLCs. Those are communities of practice with other teachers. How do we come together? How do we share knowledge? How do we share? How do we exchange resources so that we better ourselves in our classrooms? So let us plug into this program, to other PLCs around us. It's not just about Teachers Can, but it's about what the ecosystem has to offer and what the government has to offer. Tapped into quite a lot what government has to offer. We always say, the system this, the system that, but some of what we are saying is a problem the system has solves for. But it is sometimes about us tapping into it. Sometimes it's also about the system informing us, because we've read a comment where it's like, but who knows about this? It's about who you know, or what is the standard? Sometimes I think collectively we can take agency and accountability. The system can say, did we disseminate this knowledge widely for our teachers and the professions to take it on? So I just encourage us colleagues that we take on the spirit of saying, I will get informed and know what the government has for me, so that I utilize those resources and those platforms and those channels. And I think really lastly, thank you, Pastor Molwana, for grounding us in values and in purpose, and reminding us that that is at the bedrock of education. This reminder of pedagogy of kindness. I love it that it must be a pedagogy of both kindness and accountability. Both have to work hand in hand, accountability and support. And really then, thank you for this reminder that character building begins with ourselves, our learners, and our communities. Thank you, thank you. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our panelists are in. I'm so excited for this conversation. And Stephen will be taking us through this conversation where we're really sort of exploring how teachers, allies, and youth leaders are already living out this call of building the nation. We can learn from them and learn how do we collaborate with them in continuing this agenda. Stephen, panelists, thank you, thank you. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Zaba. Good evening, everyone. My name is Siziwe Molwana. I'm a network engagement lead for Teachers Can, so I'll be moderating the session today. So I won't have the liberty to introduce everyone, but I will allow our panelists to do that. And also just to note, we have noted your questions on the chat, and then we'll have an opportunity for our panelists, because we believe some of the questions might be answered during the panel. We'll have an opportunity to engage with those. I believe that the keynote speaker will still have her on a call, so don't say we're ignoring your questions. We noted them, and your comments, definitely get into them. So without wasting any time, what I will do is allow my panelists to introduce themselves, and while they're introducing themselves, by answering this question, can you share a real life experience where a teacher has influenced you as a learner beyond the classroom. As we remember from our keynote speaker, that as teachers, we influence lives beyond the classroom. So we want to find out from our keynote speaker who was that champion teacher in their lives and how they influence their lives beyond the classroom so that we can learn more about them and the work that they do. Thank you. So I'll just hand over to our panelists, and then whoever want to go first, and then we'll just allow that. Just the introduction and answer the question.
I'll go first, Steve.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bernice Skhotha. I am the National Alumni Coordinator at Numeric. I've been in the teaching profession for 15, this is my 15th year in the teaching profession, and I am privileged to be here. So this was an interesting one, Steve, for me to think about, because as a teacher, I hardly think about how my teachers influenced me. I often think about how I'm influencing learners. So this was a nice one for me to sort of sit and look back and think about it, because I've come so far because of our teachers. And I was privileged enough to be exposed to wonderful teachers from a young age. And I would not be doing those teachers justice if I do not mention that they were healing something in me, and something, unfortunately, that was broken by other teachers. I had a teacher in grade 6, Ma'am Pindile, a natural sciences teacher, the first teacher to allow us to call her by name. That for me was something that stuck with me, because often teachers are referred to by surname. But she said, what is a name? What is in a name? Because what's important is what she brings to us. She taught me discipline, she taught me resilience, and she taught me the joy of curiosity. She made me want to know more than what is in the classroom. And I took that with me from primary school right up to high school. Met a teacher, Mr. Ndlovu, in grade 8. My beloved English teacher. The first test I wrote in that teacher's class, I was the highest in the classroom, but I didn't get 100%. I had 79%. And he asked, who is the highest? I put up my hand. And he asked, who is proud of their mark? And I put up my hand. And he asked, Bernice, are you proud because that is the best you can do? Or are you only proud because you were highest in this classroom? And that struck a chord with me, because I realized I could have easily gotten 100%. And he told me, being the highest in class is not necessarily my best. I need to start measuring my best against myself. I am my biggest competitor. And from then on, I used to just strive to compete with Bernice. I only competed with my previous test. And that set me apart from a lot of learners. Then I had this teacher here who I think is the one who inspired me to be a teacher, Membo Pape, in grade 10. She used to say, I am her backup plan. She'd come to class with a plan, and if things were not going her way, she would say, Bernice, take over. This was in grade 10, an English class. I loved reading, and she saw this in me. Lindo Gutle, I'll be a teacher here. She saw this in me. So her lessons for me went beyond the classroom, because even when I was not in her class, I knew that I had to be the backup plan. And until today, I consider myself to be a utility force, as some people have referred me as, because I know how to take up space and I know how to lead when it is required of me. So my teachers were not necessarily soft, and they did not in any way baby me. They saw my potential, and they did not shy away from telling me when I was slacking. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Bernice. That was quite a mouthful. Thank you also for sharing your journey, and also some of the things that the teachers, they say, can change your life, and how beyond the classroom is still living by what you were taught. So gentlemen, I don't know what I'll go next. Just introduce yourself and answering the question.
Irfraan, you going? Good afternoon, everyone. I will be doing injustice if I don't acknowledge my boss. My boss is in the house, guys. Jezreel Sululu there on the chair. Shout out to Jezreel. My KPIs are maybe gonna be elevating, but I'm a bit nervous. To everybody who just joined on the call, Also Slash, my wife is on the call, guys. My peers are on the call. My best friend is on the call. Shane, I see you. So thank you so much to everybody who just joined in. My name is Katlego Thwane Slash. I call myself Papa Wabana, meaning the father of the nation. The reason came with that name is because of the influence I got from the late Nelson Mandela, Tata Nelson Mandela. As he says, I am the father of the nation. I classify myself as the father of the nation with the work that I do and with the influence that I get to have within the children. And I'm also a Teachers Can alumna, 2025. Also, I'm a principal at Wings of Life in Dipslot, Bambanani. But they call me Sethwane there. You know, I'm the youngest amongst all the ladies there. Shout out to them as well. I know they are joining in silent as well. I'm a father of a 2-year-old. Fun facts about me, I'm a father of a 2-year-old as well. So the question, Steve, it really, when I got to the question, it made me go back because of growing up, I was not naughty. I was overly stimulated child growing up. So I remember this one teacher, her name is Ma'am Caroline. We grew up in an era we call teachers mistress, you know. Sorry if it's a wrong word to use, but it's a Mistress Caroline. That's how I used to call her. Hence, it came back to the question here. So one time, how she affected my life. I remember one time it was, I think my parents had forgot to pack in lunch in my bag. So my concentration span was a bit low in the classroom. We're doing grade 3. So as she's teaching, we are listening there, and I remember her saying that, Thwane, I can see you're not concentrating, man. What is wrong? And I said, ma'am, then you know what she said? She stopped the lesson. I'll never forget. She stopped the lesson. She said, everybody, I'm giving you literally 50 seconds. I'm counting you down. Everybody rush to your bags, go and grab something so that you can be filled up within the classroom, you know. So everybody went out. Then she went to her bag. She had a little bit of a sandwich inside her bag. Then she gave me the sandwich, and that's how she touched me till today. You know, from there she saw me participating well, and for me she stood up till today because of she did not look at I'm just a student who's hungry in the class. She came up with a solution on how to connect with me on a more personal matter. Then one of the beautiful things that she had an afternoon program. We used to go there in the afternoon, whereby on a weekday, I think it was from 2 to 4:30, she had an afternoon program whereby she will introduce sports, puzzles, drafts, and all that. That's what she had in the afternoon. So she touched me beyond the classroom as well, because she also invested time in me, you know, just to get to know me more. I was not good in sports because of soccer. I have a soccer legs now. You can think I know how to play soccer, but I don't know how to play soccer. But one thing that she saw that I am good at, it is actually public speaking and choir, but only on the baritone because of my voice. It's a bit disappointed. It's not that good. So the bass side of things. So I remember one day we were performing for the choir. We sang that song, Yaze Yakalingana Pekaya, We Baba. Me saying way baba, we end up winning the cup because of I had that disappointed voice, and she believed in me so much that she touched my life. Then fast forward, she introduced me to another lady as I moved on to high school. Her name was Cindy, and Mem Cindy, I think they were best friends as well. And how they collaborated, I loved it because of she wanted me to move on with the program, and it's gonna tie up with what I wanna share. And with the passion that they had for children is what has touched me till today, to an extent that it made me to also look into what can I do to change the narrative, the township narrative, as the same way that they've changed the township narrative in ensuring that they created a safe space for us because of their compassion and the belief in education to transform our lives as young boys that grow up within the township space. So Mem Cindy also continued with us in the classes, but now in a more educational aspect, because of, you know, sometimes we love school, yes, but we wanted the fun aspect of school. So they introduced teaching us using an overhead projector. Remember an overhead projector, that light thing and glass thing. So we were intrigued by that, and they made lessons so fun to an extent that they made us to enjoy what we're doing within the classroom space. So since from there, this was an afternoon program. So these teachers that impacted me, it was a teacher, and also they became an afternoon program teachers because of the passion that they had. So with the lessons that they did for us, they started to ensure that we are falling in love with the learning environment, with the teaching skills, and with whatever the materials that they were giving unto us. And one of the biggest things that I would like to applaud them and in my life experience is that they created a space for me not only to be seen, but I felt I was heard and inspired to become the best version of myself in all that I was doing there. You know, sometimes in the community, because of the things that we do when you used to grow up in the community space, you get to be ripped off when you grow up in a township space, but they never stopped believing. They saw potential when everybody saw an opposite of that. And for that, I like to an extent that today we are peers. They are laughing now. They are very old. They say we never stop believing in you. And with what they taught me, I managed to even open my own organization called Katlego Thwane Foundation that is helping also children to create the very same space. And the beauty of it, in the very primary school that I was taught in at DSJ Primary School, is the very same school now that I'm also running the same program, giving hope and creating that same space that I received from my teachers. So shout out to them for what they've done to me. So that's my real life experience that I got. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katlego. And they say thank you for bringing the energy. So one thing I don't want to highlight from the teachers, so I don't speak much because I believe we took also a lot from you. An act of kindness or empathy as a teacher can go a long way. So as we are sharing around the grade 9 and being hungry, and a teacher showing up, so it's one of the key elements you talk about a lot. Teachers can. And just imagine grade 3. I don't know to disclose your age, but you can imagine, you remember that act of kindness in grade 3 and you're hungry. Just imagine how many kids actually, if only as teachers, we act towards that and empathize with our learners. Well, Kose, hand over to you, Irfraan.
Sanvanani, Dumelang, Molo, Nda, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste. It's so good to be here with you all. My name is Irfraan Mangera. I'm the head of education at We the People South Africa. We're based at Constitution Hill. I am a qualified educator. I've done my honors as well, but haven't formally taught like many of you in the school. And I think I will probably get to that in a bit later. I come from a fees must fall generation and was inspired to take up teaching as a profession as my first choice. And I say the first choice because coming from my community that I do, you know, what the professions that were looked towards and encouraged were not teaching as you'd say. And so for me to do that was also as an act of rebellion because of the inspiration teachers like Mr. Saluji, Mr. Esak, Mr. Said, Ms. Abrahams, Sawa Munir, many of these teachers were already encouraging me to become an activist, to become an educator from primary school. For the sake of time, I'll just conclude why they were so important for me. And this was because they didn't just simply teach me based on the curriculum. They encouraged me to think beyond, to ask why, to see history as something that we don't just learn as fact, but also as something that we can shape for ourselves, rooting me in a moral kind of compass, a moral kind of sensibility to not just myself and my family, but the community and the people around me. But I also want to add that teachers for me never solely existed from the formal sense. They were teachers outside of my schooling, teachers in my family, teachers in my community who I interacted with, like those from the Kathrada Foundation, who actually engaged me around not just being compliant to learning or what's covered in the textbook, but to develop a consciousness around what is the moral obligation that we have towards society and towards the people who exist next to us. So I'll leave it there because I am weary of time and I do have to stop as a hard stop by 7. Apologies.
Oh, okay, cool, no problem. Thank you for that. There's just a bit of a lot that you have shared, and also how your teachers encouraged you to think beyond the classroom and what they're teaching you, and also how to bring the society and everyone outside the classroom who became teachers, right, in your life and taught you all of that. So it's those important elements and people that we meet along our journey. Sorry, I took a thing of saying the time now speaking first. Let me just breathe a bit. And also this idea of saying, beyond the classroom. Sorry, I have a note. Sorry about that, Irfraan. I think it's because of the questions of the time now. So we'll just share more also when we go to that. And then also the conversation will basically be more of a conversation. So I'll be asking questions. All of you, you won't be presenting like keynote speakers. Please take note of that. So where do we start off? We'll start off with Katlego. What are some of the biggest challenges that teachers are facing in nation building?
Just to think and reflect on me when I was doing nation building, especially in my surroundings where I come from, being a male, number one, because of in the space that I'm in, I'm very passionate about early childhood development. That's my baby, and I love early childhood development. And there's a lot of stigma around when, especially around males being in a ECD kind of setting. And I studied early childhood development, and I love early childhood development before I even went as far as studying intermediate and senior phase in my beard. So the challenges that I faced, number one, I was a male. Number two, I was young. So as I was trying to do nation building, they asked me, you are young. What can a young man teach other young children? Where are you getting all this wisdom? Where are you getting all this time? And where are you gonna be teaching all these children? So sometimes, as Siziwe touched over very something that I love the most. As teachers, we should always try to be innovative. So I became innovative just to show them that I am really passionate about what I'm doing. So I took a grade 3 child, very struggling at that moment. In his podcast was written, he was able to do, read, write, and all that, only to find out knowledge reflection. So from that, I took it upon myself to do that one-on-one with him. Then the word of mouth. After now they see results. Now they start to believe in. People believe in results and they want everything to be action. But then I did not have space, so I became innovative in my nation building task. I changed my bedroom into a classroom. I know that's crazy, right? But I did it. So my bedroom became a classroom. How? I took my bed out every Saturday for these children to come in. Then I transformed everything, like put numbers, put everything, and created a learning space. I'm telling you today, through this nation building, through all the no's that I got from the community, now I'm getting all the years. Now we are doing 10 years. Imagine from having that one child now is growing larger and larger. So resistance are there, but we shouldn't stop. We should always try to be innovative. We should always try to create those spaces, regardless of what is being posed on us. Then secondly, that I want to touch on, is not limited to resources, but it's access to resources. Some people, especially that have that opportunity to give those resources, they keep them to themselves, and it's limiting us to do what we need to do, especially in the community space, especially in an NGO space where we need funding, especially in the NGO space, we need to hire, we need tools, but we get those people holding on onto those tools that we need to move forward. Then last but not least is lack of ongoing professional support and mentorship. But now I'm fearless because of I do get it from Teachers Can. Shout out to Teachers Can. I do get it from my local connects. Shout out to my local connects. I do get it from Jezreel and the team, the principal team. We get that mentorship, that support that we need, So I'm happy with that through everything that I went through, help now is on the way, and we are moving forward through all the backlashes that I happen to face. They are still there, but they are more limited than how they used to be. The only part we need to do is to be intentional with what we are doing in nation building and connect with the right people and collaborate. You cannot do this alone. Me collaborating as well, it has managed to make me to expand in whatever I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hopefully you grasped everything else. You spoke about a bit of the connection and the access, and also what can you do as a teacher to be innovative and making sure that every learner thrives. So I'll come to you, Bernice. In terms of what we are, where we are as a country, what is the power vested in teachers that we are not seeing or tapping into, acknowledging the power that the teachers hold?
Thank you, Steve. Teachers hold incredible power, colleagues. The power to shape minds, to nurture critical thinkers, to influence the moral compass of our nation. Teachers have access to learners from a very young age. Yet in South Africa, it seems like this power is often underutilized, because teachers are mainly seen only as deliverers of curriculum rather than as agents of change. We are not machines. Therefore, when we engage our learners, we cannot be expected to operate without empathy. Before we can teach our learners, we have to love them. We have to show them that we care, and we cannot pour from an empty cup. The power that teachers have can truly be unlocked by recognizing teachers as central to social transformation. Teachers deal with learners who come from different homes. Teachers deal with learners who come from different backgrounds, learners who have access to different resources. Teachers then have to bridge that gap between the learners. This means for teachers to be able to be in that level, they need to be provided with consistent support. There has to be fair recognition of what our teachers are doing. There has to be platforms that celebrate the teacher's creativity, the teacher's successes. I heard Mem Molwana talk about the teacher awards only being once a year. The recognition, the national one, the district ones only being once a year. And I agree with you, ma'am. Teachers need to be celebrated more beyond that. So we need to create that culture of celebrating teachers, celebrating their creativity, their dedication, and the impact that they have. We need to enhance mentorship programs, professional networks and opportunities for continued learning, ensuring that their influences is passed on across generations. We cannot operate on the basis that teachers are only boxed into their own classrooms. We need to understand that whatever magic they create in that classroom with the right platform, that can always be multiplied to the bigger communities. And that's how we can tap into the power of our teachers. They are not islands. They cannot operate in isolation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was quite interesting. You brought the element of saying you cannot pour from an empty cup. So sometimes as teachers, we forget to take care of ourselves and want to take care of everyone else. But you're reminding us that it's also our duty to take care of ourselves, for ourselves first, and so that we can be able to empathize and show up for these learners with love. Thank you so much for that. And hopefully people have grasped what you were saying. So I'm going to come to you, Irfraan. From your experience working with young people, how do teachers influence civil engagement and social change in communities?
Thanks, Stephen. And let me first also say that this topic is what shaped predominantly my entire career. Teaching is an act of nation building, and I consider myself as a popular educator. So it's not confined to the school and the classroom, but engage schools quite often, engage learners often in extracurricular programs, visits to Constitution Hill, visits to other sites of memory. And so when I heard about this and conversation that Teacher Can is hosting, I really got excited and started thinking about this deeper, because nation building doesn't begin in parliament or end in policy or start at the union buildings. The nation building work is what happens in our homes, and it's what happens in our classrooms. Our classrooms help actually shape the type of citizen we are meant to see and hope to see as a generation. And so teachers who help young people not just know the world, but who learn and develop a consciousness to question, to change it, is the type of teachers that I think help further this cause. And I'm a student of Paulo Freire. So for me, education is not neutral. It must be instructed, it must be developed in a way that allows for the practice of freedom that we now have for 31 years as a people, and to shape that freedom into something that delivers change for the ordinary person. So the young person who comes to a classroom or comes to a session where I teach, for example, the Constitution, it helps them understand that the Constitution provides a framework. There's a value system that says, okay, everyone should live in dignity. But in order to achieve that dignity, what are the things we need to put in place? Everyone needs to make sure, we need to make sure that the system provides food, that people have adequate shelter, can access education to better their lives and develop skills for opportunity. But those things only become real when we start connecting ordinary or just simply giving information to actually saying that information must move to transformation. And so you invite learners rather to think of nation building as, again, being subjects who shape history, not just objects who learn about it. Civic education and constitutional literacy is at the crux of what I do. And I do this by engaging in different methodologies. I'm really liking this concept of pedagogy of care and pedagogy of compassion, because I think teachers really are the most important shapers of a society. Unfortunately, we also see the bad side of it. There are teachers who are in it for the sake of just earning a salary. But there are teachers like at least I want to believe all of us in this room all today, who want to really take the profession and shape it into something where 20 years from now, we are looking at a generation of people, of young people, of citizens who are challenging the status quo, who are making sure we alleviate poverty, who are solving the current problems. And so to end on this point, it shouldn't be a transfer of knowledge. What we should be engaging learners with as civic educators in society is that every learner has to think about values, has to think about power, has to think about how do they show up to the society in which they live in. And we need to model that type of behaviors, but that also the type of consciousness that allows them to see themselves outside of the context and conditions that often many of our learners are exposed to, whether it's moving from the Cape Flats all the way up to township or village experiences, and even the privileged young people who are engaging in learning that often doesn't speak truth to the history, and that ignores that the shared prosperity that we must be engaged with. So I'll leave this point there, because I do think that ethical considerations are what we need to plant in as seeds in our classrooms.
Oh, thank you so much. I think the powerful code also just coming from what you're sharing. You shared a lot and they're very important, but nation building does not start in parliament. I think it's very powerful for us to acknowledge as humans and also the importance of the constitution. And also what I like said, like, start at home, communities, and even the classrooms. That's where nation building starts. So thank you for sharing that. So Katlego, I'll come to you. What kind of support should be given to teachers as a teacher and given experience?
Thank you, Steve, for your question. Firstly, to get to know the teacher first, the support that we need to get to know the teachers first. How so? Know their emotional strain. As teachers, they often carry the social burdens of their learners at all times. So what has been helpful for me, especially in a leadership point of view, because if I get to sit with a group of teachers, is in investing more time to getting to know them, the emotional aspect of things before they even go back there. Like what helped, we did what we call emotional devotion, tackling something like each and every bi-weekly. We tackle topics like peace. You have peace. What peace do you have within yourself that you need to make with your other colleagues as well, just to get to to break that bad energy, bad air within the school setting and within themselves, because they carry a lot of burdens as they're walking in the school premises as well. You understand? So I think first thing first, teachers they need them as leaders. They must be invested on, check the emotional strain. Then also an ongoing professional development is key. It's very key in ensuring that our teachers are supported, whether in how they deliver the content, how they manage their classroom. You understand? And also, most importantly, that we might overlook, which is very important, the importance of collaboration within each other as teachers. Because I always say, teachers, we are each other's greatest resources. We cannot compete as teachers. We need to always lean on each other. If we can get that one, I feel those are the key support that the teachers need. Then lastly, very importantly, because of this makes our teachers very grumpy, very angry, financial support, financial literacy to our educators, my lead. Reason why they take Tupperware, they take this, they take that. Then you understand, they end up being frustrated. They end up being frustrated, teachers. So financial literacy is also key so that they are able to transfer that skill also to the learners that they teach. I think I'll end there with my pointers in terms of support for our teachers. And also what I've seen, I'm going back to Bernice, the recognition, man. Teachers need recognition in terms of that. Just a little token of appreciation. It goes a long way. Why I say so? I've seen how the dynamic change after we celebrated Teachers' Day on the 5th of October. We celebrated on the 4th, it was on the 5th of October. So I did something that went back. I laid them a red carpet. The last time one teacher said I was in a red carpet was when I was doing grade R in 1952. We are in 2025. You understand? So a little bit of that recognition just to reinforce that I see you, I acknowledge you. Something unique, something you don't tell them, make a surprise. I'm telling you, teachers will always give their best. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Katlego. Tupperware is catching straight. Wow, interesting. But thank you for sharing that. I think also it's what our friend, yes, shared a bit around that when we teach, we don't just transfer knowledge to these learners, but teaching them the values and how they show up in the society that they live in. And that's what you're talking about also, of saying we need to impart that on teachers themselves also, just for them to be able to talk, as he's made an example, around I be peaceful and peace and all of those things, and also invest in teachers. So we need to invest more in teachers. And I like the element of the financial education element of it, because when you said financial support, you're like, hey, you need more money. But I like it, and then I think that's a reality of the teachers today, and that's what's happening. So I'll just go to you, Bernice, and maybe just to follow up, how do we ensure that the efforts of teachers are recognized and supported across generations, given from what Katlego, the panelist, was sharing?
Thanks, Steve. I think we need to create spaces for teachers to be seen and to be heard. Often when we talk about recognizing efforts and recognizing creativity and all of that, we're thinking it has to be big spaces, it has to be the big stages. But you have networks such as Numeric, such as Teachers Can, where we are an extension of where our government stops, if I may put it that way. As like Mem had said, I can imagine how many schools a district has. I can imagine, nationally, how many teachers we have out there. But we're talking here about recognizing and seeing that teacher who is not necessarily in the national stage, that teacher who doesn't necessarily have that platform, to be seen outside their village, outside their school, outside their space. So having, spaces or networks such as these ones will help to further show how we appreciate teachers. Appreciate them within their communities. Appreciate them where they are, and show them that what they're doing is just as important as someone, for example, who would be recognized in a bigger stage.
Thank you so much. As you said, those small wins are important and they need to be celebrated. We shouldn't wait, because I think all the teachers, they're thriving to get to their NTAs, but not all of us will make it through that, but we are making difference. And how networks such as Numeric teachers can recognize and celebrate those small steps, and which I think it's a big question for us as in the networks. How do we celebrate the change agent teachers and show off and celebrate them? So given to that, which is kind of interesting, Irfraan, I'm just going to come to you. We've spoken a lot about the work that you do, and so about recognizing the teachers and sharing of saying what we can do. and also what the role that the civil society or teachers played and influenced the civil society engagement and social change in communities. What more can be done to strengthen this impact?
Thanks, Stephen. And I want to actually start off by drawing this link to the previous points made by my fellow panelists. Because I think as a profession, we really have to ask harder questions about what are we doing towards ourselves, right? And to take ourselves at the same intensity and seriousness that other professions have. And I don't do this as a negative critique on us, because we are already flooded with so much going on in our classrooms and our day-to-day, that the little time we do have, we're spending it trying to recoup and take on, be at least maintain well-being. But I say this because if you look at professions, let's say accounting, let's say the law profession, there are networks that are self-organized around specific areas, geographies that allow for them to come together, have discussions and debates, start pushing for different or influencing policy and engagement at different levels. And I'm glad the teacher can exist, because this could be such a network that becomes such a powerful force in this country that doesn't function as a union, but functions as a space for teachers to come and engage, to learn, express, but also to develop themselves and to give recognition to ourselves. Because why must we get it from outside when we can also do it, amongst ourselves? In your school community, and this also draws to the next point. Cultivating community is very hard, but it is worth the sacrifice, because in a time when there's this hyper individualism being premised from different parts of the world, I won't go down that route. We need to push back into a space of community building, and that means in perhaps my district, we can develop this type of award system and get the local businesses who benefit from the school system to also help invest back into the district, so that those teachers in there can actually experience and engage and develop and have the recognition necessary. I also want us to reframe teaching as leadership. I've been thinking and writing and engaging the question of leadership for the last few years. And one of the points that I want to make is leadership is not just the minister. It's not just the MEC. It's not just the person who is the president. Leadership starts when we recognize that we have the power to influence. We are practicing leadership every time we're in a classroom, because that practice is an influence. We are influencing 30 to 60 to 70 learners at a time, in a day, in a month, in a year. That level of influence is also has a ripple effect onto the families and communities that we're coming from. And so we're not just implementers of this curriculum, right? But we need to think of ourselves as the leaders of communities. And unfortunately, yes, there is that perception that, the role of the teacher has lost its nobility. But only we can correct that perception, because it's how we show up. Do we take the role seriously? Do we make sure that we don't get accept the ill treatment that you get, and so on and so forth? Now, part of that is how do we, and what as a result of that kind of creation of a system and development of community, is that we also inadvertently develop support networks that allow us to, in psychology, you learn that the psychologists also have to speak to each other as psychologists, because they realize the heaviness of what they're experiencing. And if, as the teacher, you are the psychologist, you are the sports coach, you are so many different roles. By building communities of practice in the education profession, we start creating support networks where we can share and experience from each other. And that also helps us nurture the type of citizenry that is no longer just disillusioned by bad things that are happening in our communities, but encourage people to be more connected, to encourage people to be more reflective, to think beyond just the technical skills that we must develop as professionals, but also cares and takes to account our emotional well-being and so on. Let me end, because I think I just went away with this point, that at the heart of our liberatory practice that Priya speaks about is dialogue. I know we get tired of speaking as teachers, but creating spaces where we realize we can equally learn from the learners, and share in as much as we are also learning from each other. And there's a vice versa, there's a back and forth that exists there, because to truly build a nation, we have to create conditions for it. And conditions are not cultivated by what policy government puts through. Yes, that does make and shape it, but it is done by what we, the primary nurtures of society, are doing to make sure this democracy works, to make sure that justice is not just a foreign concept, but is an actual practice in our day-to-day. So I'm going to leave it there, because I think that kind of pedagogical approach helps us move away from a dependency model to one where we are active agents of that kind of change that we want.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. It's quite a mouthful, and also the powerful questions, right? How we show up, given what the society think about the profession and what they're saying about the profession, the way we show up, does that contribute to that notion or the thinking, which is quite impressive. And also, being a leader, it starts with the power, realizing that you have the power to influence. So we as teachers, we have the power to influence when influencing the learners already. And how do we cultivate that? And also, I like this idea of saying, encouraging more learners or communities or space that we're in for them to be connected and be reflective, because it kind of like helps them to show up as better citizens. And also, well, the key thing around community building, it's always about cultivating the community. It's hard. We always say it's not lenient and all of that, but it takes a sacrifice. And what I like what you said, it's worth the sacrifice. We always there to say the communities are different because of the context that shapes how the community is being formed. But most people, they give up because of they want the same thing that Irfraan is doing in his community to be replicated in my community, but the context actually defines how that community looks like. Thank you so much. I believe that everyone grasped and captured what you said, and the very important, the wisdom that you share, really appreciate that. So looking at the time, just going to move into the just there, you know, inspiring us, people on the call, more like what you do is called it to action. So Katlego, I'll start with you again. How does being in a community with other teachers and allies equip you to live out your agency and ultimately continue to contribute to nation building?
Thank you for the question, Steve. I think
For the question, Steve.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm getting an echo. It's like something is talking back to me. Sorry for that. So sorry, for me, I believe it's like staying consistent within the call that I'm in. That makes me to continue doing what I'm doing, especially working with other teachers, grooming other teachers, getting getting inspiration from other teachers, being in this community space and doing national building. I'm not the only one, because of I'm open to ideas, I'm open to collaborate, I'm open to work moving forward with other teachers. And one of the biggest thing that I get to see is that when you're working with teachers, you get to learn more and get to change other aspects that you are doing, especially getting wisdom and getting the way of doing things and collaborating with them and giving you skills on how to impact others as well. Like for me, in the space that I'm in, with the teachers can and with the teachers local connect that I have, and with what I've been getting from those sessions that we've been facilitating, especially diving deep into the manufacture, how it has led me and how it has shaped me and how it has changed my thinking in a way of assisting more teachers. I can see the need on what are teachers crying, what is the cry for our teachers, and how in the power and the influence that I currently hold and that I'm currently being entrusted with, how can I better the people that are under me and that I am leading. So for me, it helps me to be a better person, to be a better leader, and to be open to learning, because of as teachers we need to be open to learning, because of the world keeps changing and we need to try to be innovative. We need to try to also be adaptive. I think I'm now more adaptive to in any space that you can put me to. I'll try to be adaptive with challenges and not being scared to ask. I don't understand. I think I got into that space to say, as a teacher, there is a time where I don't understand. I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the answers. And with the network and with working with teachers and in the space that I'm in, I can be more vulnerable to how I feel, and have other teachers to assist me with maybe a similar challenge that perhaps they might have found themselves in, and they managed to mitigate around there. So it makes me to be a better leader, being able to be vulnerable and being able to be real, to say, you know what, and have boundaries as well. It has taught me how to have boundaries. As teachers, as leaders, we need to have professional boundaries, especially when we are delivering content, especially when we are also leading people, and how to also be a consistent role model. Role modeling is like, hey, when you're a role model, remember, when you a day when you want to give up, there are 50 more teachers that are going to be giving up, all because of you and having a trust in you. So it has taught me that there is always been somebody who's looking up to me, and I must continue delivering and be myself at all times. I thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. That was powerful. That's a lot. And the collaboration element comes to it. And also just what you shared. The space allows you to be vulnerable. And I believe that's what you shared also with our friend. That's the idea of saying, are you at peace? Teaching about the values, how you show up in the society. And if you can't be vulnerable enough as a teacher and admit that actually I am human first before anything else, it becomes difficult to see your learners as that. So thank you for sharing that. And also being vulnerable, you need to think about the boundaries also. It's not just being vulnerable to select that, but also it comes with a responsibility. You need to set boundaries and knowing that. And also, yeah, so the power of asking. So sometimes I think, Irfraan, you said something around asking the question, teaching you to ask the question somewhere in our conversation when you're sharing what you were taught. The power of asking the right questions help us to understand the world we live in better. And when we are being shy to ask questions, we tend to assume some of the things. So thank you for that. And I'm glad that the space and the network has offered you that, and realizing that actually, as a teacher, I'm human first before anything else. So without wasting any time, I will just invite you, Bernice. So how can teacher networks such as Numeric amplify the role of teachers in nation building? Or how is it is doing that? I believe already, maybe it's being done.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, no, definitely. These networks play a vital role, Steve. They create spaces for teachers to collaborate, to share knowledge, and to support each other through mentorship, leadership development, as Irfan has alluded to, and recognition of achievements. These networks amplify the impact of teachers far beyond the classroom. When teachers feel supported, valued, and equipped, their influence multiplies, shaping not only the learners, but the communities and the future of our country. So networks like Numeric and Teachers Can help teachers continue their journey of growth, and in doing so, they contribute meaningfully to the nation building.
Thank you. An element of collaboration, the mentorship and the support, and also learning just beyond the classroom is very quite important. I believe that it speaks to what Katlego was saying, what the network has done for him, and also like the element of recognition and celebrating the teachers and the work that they do, because it contributes to the agenda of nation building. Irfraan, I'm going to come to you. How can we collaboration between civil society, teachers, allies, government, and teachers themselves be improved?
Thank you. And I think my colleagues have already started that answer, is that you really have to be deliberate about the connections you make. It's a bad and good thing, but the reason I went into the line of work as a popular educator was because I knew the people I studied with were going to do a phenomenal job as they go teach in the school. Fees Must Fall tutored me in a way that I knew the system had to also change, and we needed to have the people who had the best interests of teachers to also push for changes within the system so that it starts shaping up to the type of thing we want to see. My thing about this is praxis, right? So we learn about the theories, we learn about the engagements, but a lot of the time, the good policy that you see on paper can't get implemented because of bottlenecks in the system, or because teachers have not been policies too far ahead of where teachers are, or the vice versa, or there's not enough resources to meet the needs. And so, one, you really have to cultivate a connected system. A system that is disconnected is not going to serve us at all. And so, listening to learners as well. You have to connect learners. You can't assume learners are the biggest part of the system. And so we need to listen and engage them and do so. And unfortunately, they aren't as organized as perhaps they used to be through COSAS and other formations. But I know organizations like Equal Education and others are trying and putting efforts into getting young people organized in schools. Then I think teachers as well, we through unions we've organized, but we also need to use networks like the teacher can to start developing our voice. Our voice is important because a lot of teachers, I mean, I met my sister-in-law, for example, 2 days ago, and she says, look, I'm just so tired because government is not defending us anymore and everything is in favor of the learners. And so I sat with that for the last 2 days thinking about it. And I said, look, how do we then get teachers themselves in schools, in districts, in areas to start having those conversations? Perhaps you can make those submissions when Parliament Education Committee is open for around education reform, etc. And then recognizing that the teachers are the ones connecting the hearts and the minds of learners, and the government in itself, or the executive, is there to deploy its resources and create a structure of learning. Now, all of these can't exist on its own because civil society also is a big part of this. I mentioned equal education, I mentioned unions, they all form part of civil society. And if they work in silos, we're going to keep getting what we're currently getting, is people interested in their own interest, in their own areas of interest, rather than coming to a collective agreement that for the nation to thrive, we have to work together. For the nation to be built, all parts of the system has to cohere and find each other. And we must be willing, and unfortunately, it's tied to what I said earlier about collectivism, is we must be willing to also say we can't have all the things we want. Part of building a nation is recognizing that our shared differences mean we must find the areas where we can compromise, and not compromise on principles, but compromise on the things that we can't all achieve at this time. And one of the things a previous speaker spoke about around the budget. Now, if we don't understand, more teachers will be cut from the budget if we don't teach how the system works. And that's why it's important for us to become advocates for ourselves, to know that when Parliament is doing a process around the budget and education, it's the one budget that shouldn't be cut. But we're the ones who have to mobilize society to back up that, because education is the most important thing that will help us start solving the other problems around unemployment and so on. So in short, it has to move beyond just a system. I know it's been 31 years only, and we are building a democratic system that allows for knowledge to be shared and learned. But we all know the bottlenecks. We all know the curriculum changes that need to be had. We all know that there are disconnects between what the economy is requiring and the skills gap that is not produced, for example, from school. And I think that therefore our day-to-day practice of nation building has to move from simply giving and teaching about what's in the curriculum to a practice where our classrooms end up becoming workshops that promote democracy in a way that allows teachers as the most important revolutionary actors in our society to help shape this democracy to what it can become.
Well, I believe that we are learning. I'm learning a lot, and also thank you for the wisdom and the work that you do in the society, and it reflects beyond just the classroom and the importance. What I love also is highlighting the importance of the role of the teachers as nation builders, and understanding that our
So,
work
Stephen,
doesn't end.
sorry, Stephen, your sound has gotten a little bit lower.
Can you guys hear me now? It's much better.
Yeah, it's still done.
Now, how is it?
There we go. Perfect.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
cool, perfect. Thank you, Zama. So I was saying that what you're positioning also, you're reminding us that teaching is not just about delivering the knowledge, but it's beyond that. And that's one thing I really appreciate of saying, actually, it's not about the content, but it's also building the nation and the society we want to live in the next day. So, and it's both saying, what do you do as practicing? Because as teachers, curriculum delivery, we need to tick the box and all of that. But what are we saying in building the nation? And also, you spoke a lot about cultivating a connected system. So how do you connect? And one thing I appreciate, it's bringing the learner as the first, and in the system. And how do you connect with the learners and help them to become better? Because it's easy to say we want to build a better society, better citizens, but what are we doing to help them and create the pathways to that, right? And then also what is so key, I think, is as teachers, we need to become advocates for ourselves. We'll be sitting, we know our struggles, we know what we are going through, but we have opportunity actually to influence the policies and to speak about it, right? Can you guys hear me? Because of Tamara says still difficult to hear you. So I'm sorry, but we'll share the recording. Hopefully it'll be there. And then also some of what's coming up. As you said, like there's the code of saying, as teachers, we need to become advocates for ourselves and then participate in the structures. Because sometimes you look at a system as something that is far, but we have the power to influence the system. And the element of saying we as organization working in a space, how can we come together actually? And seeing that we're not working in silos, but working through the same goal, towards the same goal or objectives. As you mentioned, your equal education. How do you, like an organization or a network like Teachers Can, Numeric, partner with equal education? How would it look like to advocate for that quality education? And the key thing about what you've mentioned is that we need to be honest also to ourselves. We can't achieve everything. And we need to acknowledge that. We might be a Teachers Can and Numeric, be amazed and do bring the teachers together and they connect, but there's another element that's missing, as you said, the learners. How do we encourage that element? So we need to be honest that we are not working in that space, but there are people in the space working that, and how do we collaborate with that? So thank you. You've said a lot, and I wish we had enough time and have you all as speakers. Thank you. You're all amazing as panelists, and also how you connect. And it shows that the challenges and the hope that we have as teachers and all of us as activists, and believers in nation builders, and as nation builders also, is that we are speaking the same language. We just need a space and a time to connect and have these discussions and talk about the way forward and discuss the possibilities of that. So with that being said, thank you and thank you from my side. I really enjoyed this. Hopefully this is just the beginning of the conversation, and we as a team will just continue to have this more engagement, and also hopefully everyone on the call is willing to come on board and this call of nation building. Thank you so much. Back to you, Zama.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for just that great conversation that you've had with our incredible panelists. Really, really inspiring, resounding affirmations from the chat. I think everyone is just so inspired. We are leaving here with, guys, I have notes on notes. And I'm not going to do what I did and say and repeat them and say them, because Stephen is also sort of like, as we're going along, connecting the dots and reiterating them. But what an insightful conversation that you've left us with. A lot to think about, a lot to challenge ourselves on. And I think for me, it is a lot to leave with hope, because at the heart of teaching as an act of nation building is hope. If you don't have hope for a better society, if you haven't reimagined a better society, I don't think you'd wake up. South Africa is a hard country. I don't think you'd wake up and go into the classroom. There's so many things that are happening. But what this conversation has done, as hard as it is, has to be, for me, a reignite of hope, that actually we can still do it. And I think for me, whenever I probably said this at the beginning, whenever I hear this topic, I think teaching is an act of social justice, and we need that in our country. The nation building agenda, guys, is not, thank you for reminding us, Irfraan, It is not in policy. It is not in the NDP, the RDP, whatever policy document that there is in our national development agenda. But it is in our classrooms, it is in our schools, it is in our communities, in our homes. And this conversation has just reignited that and started that for us. It's happened historically, it's happening presently. And how do we continue such conversations and dialogue so that it continues to happen and that the next generation is so much better off? Because I think at least we were left a little better off as well. Thank you so much. Thank you to our keynote speaker. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you to Stephen for hosting a fantastic panel discussion. Thank you to our team, to our comms team that have not slept sometimes thinking of who are we bringing together? Are they getting back to us? Thank you so much to Zinat and to Tsepiso. Thank you to the team. I think everyone is on the call. Buntle and Siziwe, Michael, thank you to the team. And most importantly, thank you to you teachers and allies that have joined this conversation. Because I think, again, without you in this network, in this conversation, where is the hope? The hope is in teachers coming together and engaging. We hope again that this conversation does not end here, that these networks continue to grow, that you join us at Teachers Can, you join Numeric, you join precisely this reminder of how do we connect with one another and connectedness, that you join other networks that will keep the conversation going, that will mobilize us and, give us allies so that when we are advocating and we are exercising our collective agency, we have people that are standing with us and resonate with our ideas. Our impact will multiply when we are in community with one another. We've been reminded it is a hard thing to do sometimes. It comes at a cost, but it is a worthy cost for ourselves and for our communities, for our nation building agenda. That is the exchange for 2025. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We have been invited to have this more. You know what? We might consider it. When the people speak, we hear. I too am inspired to have this more. I'm like, it must happen again. We can't wait for next year, October. But in light of World Teachers Day, and we are intentional about having this at the periphery of World Teachers Day. In light of that, I think we'll always have it in October, but we might maybe do a Youth Day one, halfway through the mark, So thank you so much. With that being said, everyone, we will not necessarily look at the chat. Much of what was said was affirmations. We will continue to connect with those that have left their details. I encourage you as well, leave your LinkedIn bio as a way to check out and to, leave it and let us connect with one another. Let the conversation continue. Thank you so much. That is it from our side. Congratulations to our speakers. You have done great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zama. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bernice.
Sibamba ngazo zozibini.
Thank you so much, Teachers Can team.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Obrigado.
everybody. Obrigado. Sibamba ngazo